At the same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farm. Not only that, but many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with, and this is a reality. Now, when we come to Washington in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
Since slavery, by definition, is a 100% tax on all labor produced by a slave, it is imperative, family. It is imperative that we understand the size of the tax imposed on enslaved people in terms of their uncompensated labor prior to emancipation. Yes. Some researchers have estimated that the value of the labor extracted from enslaved Africans was up to 24 trillion, and others up to $97 trillion. Taking an average of these estimates yields a conservative valuation of up to $50 trillion, which is the effective size of tax imposed on black people, on American descendants of chattel slavery between 1619 and 1860. These estimates do not include any cost associated with the unimaginable pain and suffering, murder, rape, torture, separation of families, denied entrepreneurial enterprise, denial of education, theft of inventions and intellectual property, denial of freedom and the right to pursue happiness that accompanied the daily life of a slave over the course of 17 generations. By the way, a trillion is 1,000 billion. So we are talking about a considerable, almost incalculable sum of money extracted from enslaved Africans that created extraordinary wealth for this country and for white America that was never recouped by the American descendants of chattel slavery. Good afternoon on the West Coast. Good afternoon in the Central. Good evening in the Central. Good evening on the East Coast. You know who it is, family. Angela Nirvana, your hostess with the mostest on the Friends of ADOS TV channel, bringing you those ADOS hot topics and making the case for reparations, making the case for democratic down ballot strategy, making the case to weaponize our vote and socialize our suffering, family. It is me, your hostess with the mostest. Come on, follow in, follow in, follow in. What's up, ADOS American Descendants of Slavery? I see you. Monty Rob. Bomani, I see you. Good evening. Mike Michelson, I see you, family. Welcome to the live. Debonair 1, welcome to the live. Patrice Lane Jordan, welcome to the live. Lamont La Machine 71, I welcome you to the live. And for all of you who have yet to chat, where you slinging bricks, welcome to the live on the Friends of ADOS TV channel. I'm so grateful to have you with me. Y'all know ADOS life is happening. I got in here and 4 o'clock was the hour, and I was like, oh no, who knew I'd be in traffic pushing from Sherman Oaks all the way down to the LBC. It was intense. I got in here, I think around 4:06. Shout out to my strategist, my media engagement strategist. We got some business done while in traffic, and I'm here with you for today's broadcast. I felt the need to open with what I just read on the heels of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I've got people in my feed holding me to task that I'm being ridiculous to hold this government to $50 trillion. And that's just an average between researchers from one end of the spectrum of what we are owed to the opposite end of the spectrum. Between 14 trillion, what did they say? Between 24 and 97 trillion, Shawn D. Rochester from the Black Tax, the cost of being Black in America, he just split it down the middle and said on the average, we're owed about 50 trillion. So we already know 17 trillion is not enough. Friends of ADOS community may start at 75, okay? We may start at 75 trillion. And don't come for me talking about how ridiculous it is. What if our ancestors felt that way about our emancipation? What if Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and everybody fighting for our civil rights felt that way? You know, it all seems impossible until it's done. So don't come for me talking about that is ridiculous. They're never going to do that. It's these outlandish numbers that make y'all in that movement sound so crazy. What are you thinking? Let me help you with something. Had they left us with the 40 acres and a mule, it wouldn't be $100 trillion, because that's really what it is. All the wealth that they eat from was the wealth created on the backs of our ancestors' heinous chattel slave labor. Their blood and bones is in this ground. So don't come for me talking about how much it is. It ain't our fault that it's now over 100 trillion. Okay? He didn't factor in all the other maladies. He didn't factor in the Jim Crow and the accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage. They'll be lucky to get off with 50 trillion. And it's not too much to ask, because nobody told them to take away our 40 acres and a mule to make us whole post-slavery, okay? And give it to the white folks, the white immigrants and the white folks that came over here. Nobody told them to give them and hook them up with a Homestead Act that transferred all of our wealth to the white folks to capitalize on when they didn't lift a hot damn finger to build this country. So don't come for me. Y'all know I ain't on none of that, and I really don't care what you think about it. Take that up with your government, who benefited and continues to eat from that. That's who you take it up with. Don't come for me in my little old feed, okay? Or start your own show. If you think that's ridiculous, you go do your show and tell them, you know, a crumb, a buck over a quarter. I want everything that's due me and mine. Standing in the shoes of. Nobody comes for the Jews who Obama enriched 12 million for a Holocaust that we didn't participate in. Nobody comes for the Jews when this government chooses to give them, I think last count was 233 million or billion in 2013 that this government has given to them for their Holocaust and for their armies. Nobody checked with me about my permission to use my tax dollars to enrich Jews, to enrich the Native American Indians, to enrich the Japanese. Nobody questioned me. My tax dollars are still being used as a part of that. Nobody checked in with me about the military-industrial complex. Nobody asked Angela Nirvana's permission to use her tax dollars in this way. So don't come for me talking about 50 trillion is ridiculous, 75 trillion is ridiculous. The debt is the debt. And I'm not really giving a damn about how you fix this. I see you still at it, government, trying to give our repair away to all the students in the country to wipe away everybody's student loan debt. When we only 16% of the degree, and high school dropouts, white high school dropouts are more gainfully employed than college degreed American descendants of chattel slavery. So I see you coming up with billions to fix that. Another white wealth transfer that has nothing to do with at least 84% of my people who built all this wealth. You're coming up with a bunch of class-based policies that don't fix rates, Democrats. And I see you. I see you. And don't come for me asking, well, why don't you drag the Republicans? I ain't never voted Republican. And by the looks of it, 85% of our electorate who turned out for Biden ain't never voted Republican. Republicans ain't my monkey and ain't my circus. The Democrats own us. Now, I know this is a bipartisan issue, but I'm telling you, politicians respond to pressure, not applause. And you will not get rewarded with my vote while doing nothing to make American descendants of chattel slavery citizens of this country while you've got all these designs to hook everybody else up. So let's get into today's topic. I just had to read some folks because y'all be straight tripping on me. Then I got to come on my show and trip on you. Okay? And you probably ain't over here watching. YVOC Info, welcome to the live. Your Soul Train, welcome to the live. Sheila Boyd Lee, I thank you. Welcome to the live. Margaret McCall, welcome to the live. And for those of you who I have yet to see in the chat, because I can't see everything in the chat, I welcome you. So let's get into today's topic because folks, it's coming for me. Oh, they're complimenting Biden. Oh, they're just so happy day that Biden has some black faces peppered throughout his administration. We're going to talk about some of the people in the cabinet today who some are ADOS even. Surprise, surprise. Okay. The rest are other. Lots of immigrants getting hooked up. Y'all not going to believe this graph I'm about to show you of the Hispanics that are going to be running the country. Oh, yeah, in Biden's administration. Let's look at that first so we can have some context over why Biden told the civil rights leaders, be prepared to bow down to the Hispanics. Let's just see how much of them will be occupying the administration, shall we? Let me share my screen. Nisi Law, I see you, my love. Welcome to the live. Oh, yeah, we going in like I always do. Ain't nothing new over here. This is what I do. Educate the masses so we can get on the same page in this piece, okay? Let's see here. Oh, I have so much to show y'all, Lord. Let me see here. Lord, why is it saying? Okay, here we go. Nah, that ain't the one. Okay, family, just give me a second. Give me a second. Oh, Lord, I saved all my links in the Gmail. See? Oh, happy day. Good golly, Miss Molly. Hold on. Yeah, I want to show y'all this beautiful graph where we pretty much have been taken over by the immigrants. That's what he's setting things up for over here. Let's find it. Where'd I send it? Tonight's notes for tonight's show. Okay. Hold on. Well, why did the whole thing come over? Hold on, y'all. Just give me a second. Lord of mercy. Let me see. I sent it from here. Let's just see here. Sent. Okay, let's see if it's over here. Lord, it done cut off my whole entire series of notes. So let me just go based on what I know, okay? Because all of my links, that ain't the one I meant to share right now. So hold on, let me stop sharing the screen. We're not ready for that one. But basically, and I have to find the graphs later. I'll put all the links in the chat so you guys can see for yourself. There was a wheel, you know, where Biden showed percentage-wise how many people he's intending to fill his cabinet and his administration with. Well, of this wheel, about 3/4 of it was Hispanic. And then there was, maybe I would say, maybe not 3/4, maybe a little less than 3/4 of it. Not even half. I would say of this wheel, about 40% of that wheel was Hispanics. You know how many blacks there were? And we know how they flattened blackness, right? About, I want to say, of that wheel, 20% maybe black or less. But I mean, when they say black now, they put so many blacks in there, I don't even know which ones are people of color. Like, I mean, black immigrants. I don't know who descend from Caribbean and who descend from Africa. Because see, at this show, it's imperative, and for our whole entire identity, it is imperative that we unflatten blackness, because when you combine all black in this country, it masks the failure of the very descendants of American chattel slavery, who built all the wealth all the groups eat from. So just like Biden told the civil rights leaders, be prepared to be working, he said with them, but he really meant for them, because that's exactly how it's shaping up in terms of his administration. When I get a window to pull that up, I'll share it in the links. So let's go and see what I've got, and let's talk about it one at a time here. Here's who Joe Biden has selected for his cabinet. Is it in this one? Wait now. No, it's not in this one. Okay, so here is who Joe Biden has selected for his cabinet. Let me come back over and see if y'all can see that. Let me share the screen. Hold on. So let's go through them one at a time. I'm going to try to do cliff notes on what I researched to give you an opinion about these blacks that we're supposed to feel so grand about being in Biden's cabinet. So let's see if y'all can see that. Hold on. Yeah, y'all can see it. Okay, let's dig in. Let's go in first and foremost with, let me go back. I'm going to share the full screen so y'all can see it fully. Okay, so let's go first with the Secretary of Defense, General Lloyd Austin. Okay, it appears right now, based on my notes, that this particular general actually is in retirement. He's being pulled out of retirement to be the Secretary of Defense. Now, why is he a problem even though he has a black face? Well, he worked 8 years for an Obama, who murdered Gaddafi because Gaddafi wanted to break away from the New World Order. Obama was responsible for 6 additional wars when he promised us under his moniker of hope and change that he was bringing the troops home. Obama dropped so many bombs he ran out. The drone strikes he dropped killed the innocent foreigners, and it killed Americans too. Okay? So when you talk about someone like General Lloyd Austin, this is not a credit to us at all. Now, some are saying that he is being used to diffuse these issues that the Republicans have with China, where we all know Hunter Biden is being investigated about his wheelings and dealings with China. So Biden is pretty much picking him to give China protection from that type of war. But please know that Biden, as a VP, was just as much on board with Obama's 6 additional wars that he started, as well as Biden voted for the fake Iraq war that they put who? The blackface Colin Powell. They put that ADOS face on the face of those lies to drag us into war in Iraq. I'm sure you remember. There were no weapons of mass destruction found. That was used to go to war, along with the terrorist attacks on the World Trade Towers, which many believe our own government was responsible. I'm not going to go there in depth, but I want you to understand that all black ain't family, American descendants of chattel slavery. All black ain't family. You even got the ADOS who will speak more to war, who will greenlight more to war, who will greenlight class-based policies at our peril while telling us no to reparations. So he's not a congressperson, so I couldn't find any record on where he stands on reparations, but we're going to get to Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman momentarily so that you can understand that our newly elected congresspeople, along with Warnock, are not in support of reparations in the trillions over multi-generations. All black ain't ADOS black, and even ADOS black can sell us out for the almighty dollar. Okay, next, let's move to Marcia Fudge, Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. Now, this here is an extra special trip because Marcia Fudge is more noted for agriculture, okay? But from what I saw, she's, done pretty well. Her record, she's a congresswoman. Her record is pretty solid. Nothing specifically for American descendants of chattel slavery, but nothing necessarily against us. It's kind of like a class-based thing that a few of us are included in. Okay, that's better than a zero, nothing at all. So I don't really find her record to offend me necessarily. I just don't see where she signed on for HR 40. Now, I'm not a fan of the HR 40. It definitely needs edits. And now that I understand through Shawn Rochester, the cost, the black tax, the cost of being black in America, that we're owed more like 50 trillion, I don't agree with Darity's 17 trillion because Darity is taking away everything that happened prior to our emancipation, prior to this country being formed in 1776. That's how he derived 17 trillion. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but that's my understanding. I want to go in under the Friends of ADOS community with support from the members and the votes. We need to coalesce as all the grassroots under the Friends of ADOS community in order to have our votes. We have to weaponize those votes and demand the reparations, the proper amount. I'm a negotiator by trade. So I believe we need to start the number at 75 trillion because we'll meet in the middle. Okay, we'll meet in the middle and potentially get the 50 trillion that we're owed. Do a split. We're owed more than 50 trillion. Okay, let's be clear. That is the mean or the medium between the 24 and the 97 trillion that the researchers say we're owed. And Shawn's book was published in 2017. So once again, it's not our fault that the debt is so high. Pay the debt, pay the reparations. You owe it. It is a debt, not welfare. It's not a handout. Economically, we are dying out here. And since COVID, we've been wiped off the whole entire monopoly board. So we need to talk some real numbers. Once again, they should have never left. They should have never took away the 40 acres and a mule. Had we had that, we'd be balling right now. We would not be executed by government sanction and dying disproportionate from COVID and living in being redlined into environmentally racist communities and tenement housing. Understand that how we got here has nothing to do with us as individuals. This is the government's institutional systemic racism. And remember, we were once Republicans. There's nothing different about these Dixiecrats that's running it now. As a matter of fact, I would venture to say they are Republicans in Democratic clothing. So, Marcia Fudge, why this is problematic, but listen, she'll take it. She'll take HUD, and I'm sure she'll do wonderful things for it. My whole thing is we need to focus on making ADOS whole before we actually start seeing about everybody else. So I want to share this with you. Let me make sure y'all can still see and hear me, Lord. I know my strategist is watching. So I know you're hearing me. If anything goes wrong and they can't see, let me know so that I can make the adjustment. Okay, guys, it's a learning curve. I'm working on a new days, new times, so I can have your undivided attention. There's so much great new Black media. I'm trying to find my spot where I can have a captive audience. So that's why I've thrown in this Friday show to see how it works out. I wanted to share with you about who Biden picked in lieu of Marcia Fudge, who's got the background in agriculture, okay, that should have made her a shoo-in for agriculture over HUD. Let's go up. Hold on one second. Come over here. I want to read this to you. Let me share. Okay, I'm going to share the screen so y'all can see me. Oh, thank you, Patrice Lang Jordan. Welcome to the live, my love. Ali Bay, welcome to the live. ADOS children, Deborah Burrow. I love y'all, Black and Strong. Okay, let's get in. So I want to tell y'all a little bit of background. Let me see. Lord have mercy. Oh, through Jesus. It's going to change, family. A change soon come. A change soon come, I promise you. So let's see here. Marcia Fudge, like I mentioned prior, she hasn't signed on to HR 40. I took a couple of cliff notes from some articles that I'll share later to give you an overview of Marcia and this Vilsack dude. That, listen, a cabinet seat of any variety is a high honor, one that Fudge earned as a smart, effective member of Congress for more than a decade. We do, though, share some of the disappointment voiced last week that Fudge didn't get the USDA position. Politico noted, for instance, that while her supporters are confident she'll do a fantastic job leading HUD, they expressed bewilderment at the decision, given Fudge's extensive anti-hunger and AG policy work in Congress made her particularly well-suited to lead the USDA. The American Prospect, meanwhile, saw her as a potentially transformative agricultural secretary, writing, quote, Fudge was intending to rethink the notion of how Black voices can be heard on policy. She set her sights on the USDA, an agency whose primary function in terms of dollar amounts is actually to distribute supplemental nutrition assistance program, or SNAP benefits. Open parent, Fudge has been on the Agricultural Committee since entering Congress in 2008, and now chairs the Nutrition Subcommittee, the key oversight entity for SNAP distribution. This seems like an early missed opportunity for a Biden administration that's leaning on familiarity rather than innovation. Nonetheless, Fudge, whose background includes serving as mayor of Warrensville Heights, knows her way around both policy and politics, which will come in handy at HUD. The department will play a key role in the Biden administration's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, which, as Politico noted, quote, has caused millions of people to fall behind on rent and mortgage payments and, quote, face eviction and massive back rent bills. The new administration is expected to push for Congress to pass a relief package dedicating billions of dollars to rent relief, and Fudge, as HUD's leader, will be critical in that process and in seeking additional funding to address homelessness. I don't understand why this government is always a day late and a dollar short. How many ADOS families will have to lose their homes before any of this gets accomplished? How many of them will be homeless and living in their cars? Okay. Furthermore, how many white folks are dying disproportionate from COVID? How many white folks have disproportionate cases of COVID? Can't find that information anywhere. So I'm not going to touch that because my strategist told me to stay away from it. So I'm going to move on. But these are things and questions for you guys to ponder because it's all about political education, family. I'm going to try my best not to get excited and animated as I generally do when talking about the ADOS because I'm very passionate about my people and what's happening to us. It keeps me up at night. So I'm going to do my best to understand that there's lots of new viewers. So for my followers, my ADOS movement, my Be the Powers, my B1s, FBAs, many of you who already know, just bear with me. There's lots of new people that we're reaching out to because we gotta spread this message and we gotta grow the community, right? We must grow the community. So yeah, we need everybody on deck for the reparations. So just know there's some information to all of my old school who've been rolling with me for about 15 months. Just bear with me when I get a little repetitive, okay? So let's talk about Vilsack, whom Biden has chosen. So I'm not giving Biden no credit. He's put a warmonger as Secretary of Defense, like I just mentioned. Prepare for more war. That's what that means when they bring this man out of retirement, because that's what was happening under Obama. And now, instead of putting someone who already knows agriculture, he chooses Vilsack. Now, why is this a problem? Let's read. Well, you can't see that part. I'm reading from my notes over here in the Word document. Okay, Vilsack, President-elect Joe Biden plans to nominate Obama cabinet veteran and former Iowa Governor Tom Vilsack as Secretary of Agriculture. A source familiar with transition discussions confirmed to NPR. That's where I'm pulling this one from. The other one was Politico. Vilsack returns to an agency he held for 8 years as Barack Obama's agricultural secretary. So I might have that right about the Secretary of Defense. I might have that wrong. I know he served under Obama. I don't know how many years. It's been confirmed here in this bit that it's 8 years. Vilsack returns to an agency he held for 8 years as Barack Obama's agricultural secretary. So let's go down. The U.S. Department of Agriculture is best known for supporting farmers, but actually has a much greater impact on the country through its funding of food aid programs, including the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, which Marcia Fudge has been over for a decade, and school meals. The USDA estimates that 1 in 4 Americans take advantage of at least one of these food programs during a typical year. Me speaking, this should not be the plight of any American descendant of chattel slavery. We shouldn't be one in nothing. We should not need government. You run me my $151 million check per American descendant of chattel slavery, we would need these things, and we shouldn't be needing these things as descendants of the very enslaved that built all the wealth in this country. Moving on, that was me. Vilsack became the safe, comfortable choice for Biden after competition for the USDA job set off a battle between two wings of the Democratic Party. Okay. Traditional farm lobby groups had rallied behind former Senator Heidi Heitkamp of North Dakota, while reformers who want the USDA to spend its money fighting hunger and climate change pushed for Representative Marcia Fudge from Cleveland. Biden has now named Fudge as Secretary of Housing Development, the first Black woman to head the agency since the 70s. Okay, now let's jump down. Okay. President-elect Joe Biden's decision to bring Tom Vilsack back to lead the Agriculture Department has enraged many farmers of color, American descendant of chattel slavery farmers, who say his record on civil rights should have disqualified him from the job. The criticism comes as Biden is under intense pressure to name a historically diverse cabinet. Oh, Jesus. Okay, diverse cabinet, and expectations have been particularly high for USDA, which has been almost exclusively led by white men and systematically discriminated against farmers of color, that's American descendants of chattel slavery, and women, giving them far less access to crucial federal programs since its inception in 1862. And this is who Biden chooses for agriculture. So will anything change for the ADOS under Vilsack, under Biden? Put your thinking caps on. Next. Okay, well, we already know about Kamala as the vice president. I'll give a little bit of that, and then I'll move on to Cori Bush, Warnock, and there's one more. Let me get to my notes. I'm having a brain fart, trying to make sure I'm within the time that I'm trying to do the show in 90 minutes. Family, just please. It's a lot for me to get a show wrapped in 90 minutes. I will do my best. No promises. Anyway, like I was saying, I want these. While Kamala is a problem, although she looks like us, although she studied at Howard, although she is an AKA, her record is atrocious when it comes to the ADOS out here in California. Okay, she was a prosecutor, an attorney general. She would not sue Steve Mnuchin for wrongful foreclosure on American descendant of chattel slavery homes up in the Bay. And now he's Treasury Secretary, lining the pockets of his billionaire buddies in the trillions while they sit up here and have not a second stimulus coming for the ADOS. But we will visit that topic on Sunday. I'm just giving you a little bit of overview that she descends. She is a descendant of East Indian Brahmin caste family, and Indian Jamaican, who her father proudly pronounces that he descends from slave owners in Jamaica. He's not African Jamaican. He's Indian Jamaican. And I've already shared with you that her middle name is Desi. Desi means the elite, that you're purebred Indian. You're purebred Brahmin East Indian caste. And her middle name is Desi, and that's what the term means. So in other words, family, Kamala is white where she comes from. She's married to a white Jewish banker, okay, and raising his white children. Just because they have a black face don't mean that they are American descendant of chattel slavery. And I just am trying to stress this point because we've got to be more strategic and get beyond identity politics, respectability politics, if any of this is ever to change. I think there's one more on here. I don't see Susan Rice. She might not be in the cabinet. She must be in the administration. But I want to talk a little bit about Susan Rice. Hold on one second, family. Let me pull it up. This was fire. I bet y'all don't know this about Susan Rice. Hold on. Susan Rice. Oh, Lloyd Austin. That's the gentleman's name. That's the one that's going to be Secretary of Defense. Okay, hold on, family. Okay, I'm trying to find my notes on Susan Rice. If I don't find it fast, Michael Regan. Oh, Michael Regan is the EPA administrator. Let me share that. Hold on. Now, he's too new. Like, he was a regulator. Let me see here. Hold on. Let me see what y'all looking at. Okay, let me stop this screen and bring up Michael Regan. Thank you guys for joining the live. I'll get to your comments after I do this short segment, and then I have to get into my read. Okay? Story time. We got some more stuff to disclose from the cost of the black tax. So just let me share the screen. Okay. Now, do know this Michael Regan is not to be confused with Ronald Reagan's son. His name is also Michael. Okay. So Biden picks regulator Michael Regan, not Reagan, Regan, for EPA administrator. Okay. Regan, who is head of North Carolina's environmental agency, was one of several contenders whose name emerged only in recent days. Biden's pick was confirmed Thursday by a person familiar with the selection process who was not authorized to discuss the matter publicly before the official announcement and spoke on condition of anonymity. California clean air regulator Mary Nichols had faced increasing objections from progressive groups who said Nichols had not done enough to address the disproportionate harm that low-income and minority communities face from living next to oil and gas installations, factories, and freeways, predominantly American descendant of chattel slavery. North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper, who hired Regan for the state job, said Wednesday that Regan was a consensus builder and a fierce protector of the environment. He's been part of a strong, diverse cabinet in North Carolina, and if he is selected by the president-elect, I have no doubt that he will do the same kind of job for our country. So that's about all I want to dig into him. Well, let's see here. He became environmental chief in North Carolina in 2017. State officials there are grappling with contamination from PFAS, industrial compounds, and other industrial polluters. Regan points to his efforts to hold accountable Chemours, which is the main business blamed for the toxic PFAS pollution, and other work ranging from improving regulation of the state's giant hog farms to releasing a plan to cut climate-damaging fossil fuel pollution from power plants by 70% within 10 years. He previously spent almost a decade at the federal EPA, including managing a national program for air pollution issues. Okay, so that's all I really want to do on him. Let's move on. Hold on. I wanted to talk a little bit about Susan Rice, but I don't want to belabor it. Susan Rice, from my notes, because it got chopped off when I forwarded from one email to another. From what I recall in my notes, Susan Rice has Jamaican grandparents. Now, I don't know if her mother or her father, if these are the parents of her father or her mother. I do know that she was born in this country, but I want to tell you, as a descendant of Jamaican grandparents, she's hooked up. She's hooked up. I think last count, she was worth about $25 million. Okay? These are things that stuck out for me to help you understand all black ain't ADOS black. You need to understand this, family. It's imperative. Okay? Her personal life, she was born November 1764. She's 55 years old and a millionaire a few times over. She was born on November 17th in 64 in Washington, D.C., so she's probably 56. Studied at Stanford University and the New College, Oxford. Rice is an African-American whose maternal grandparents were Jamaican. Here we go. Let's dig into this just a little bit, family. Let me come back and share it with you. Shout out to Be the Power that helped me to understand how to share my screen. Oh, Lord, I'm not very technical, family. Forgive, and forgive some more on top of that. All right. So let's get in about Susan Rice. Just a little bit before I go to your comments and get to the reading so I can tighten this show up per my amazing strategist suggestion. She's got a disclosure problem. Uh-oh. There she is, family. One of these days, Joe Biden is, okay, this is when she was running for VP. So just bear with me because we all see who he ultimately chose. But this woman is rich as ever. Okay, let's go down. Okay, here's what we know. She is the former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations and national security advisor under Barack Obama. In the Clinton administration, she served at the National Security Council and as the Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs. She was 55 at the time. She's 56. That's the entirety of her political career. Her resume from the corporate and government adjacent world, akin to Vilsack, okay, well, that's another reason why Biden has chosen him over Marcia Fudge to head up agriculture. That's money, baby. It's, you want to know why a thing is being done? Just follow the money. So let's talk about her. Her resume from the corporate and government adjacent world, however, is much lengthier. In the praiseworthy words of the Wall Street Journal, Rice has more corporate experience than others on Biden running mate list. Indeed, she currently sits on the board of directors of Netflix, where she racked up stock options on more than 5,200 shares of the company, currently worth $2 million alone. According to an August 5th filing, she's divested about 1/4 of those holdings, netting some $300,000. That, along with a stint at American University as a visiting research fellow, makes up the bulk of her post-Obama professional activity. Much less is known about her pre-Obama career, starting with her time at the infamous consultancy McKinsey & Company. After earning her doctorate at the age of 25, me speaking, how many American descendants of chattel slavery can afford to get their doctorate by 25 years old? How many of them can even afford to attend an HBCU? As Kamala brags about, her efforts to erase student loan debt at the HBCUs. Ain't nobody run me that data about how many American descendants of chattel slavery that would include, given that it's overwrought with whites and immigrants, even in the administration. I digress. Rice served as a management consultant at the firm from 1990 to 92, working out of the Toronto office. That's the same corporate consultancy that got presidential hopeful Pete Buttigieg in hot water during the primary, and his initial refusal to disclose the work he did for them helped stymie his rise. Political rival Elizabeth Warren demanded that Buttigieg provide a list of past clients and what he did for them, eventually resulting in him asking for a release from his non-disclosure agreement with the firm. Okay, I want to jump down. When Rice's stint with McKinsey may not have been, I'm trying to find that 23 million I saw. Okay, let's jump down. While Rice's stint with McKinsey may not have been focused particularly on authoritarian governments, she's been no stranger to strongmen at other points in her career. After her time in the Clinton White House, Rice went into privileged consulting, spending 2001 and 2002 as a managing director and principal at IntelliBridge, a geopolitical strategy shop, which eventually became Eurasia Group. Again, we know next to nothing about who Rice was working for during that time because she has largely concealed who her clients were. But, wrote Akbar Shahid Ahmed in HuffPost, her closeness to one client whose identity is publicly known, Rwandan strongman Paul Kagame, the country's president since 2000, has previously raised concerns among human rights groups and fellow officials. The lack of transparency in Rice's work at IntelliBridge may be standard for that particular foreign consulting industry, but that's not a sufficient explanation for someone striving to be vice president at the time. And given that the one client of hers from that time that we know is someone widely referred to as a benevolent dictator and darling tyrant who's been in power since the mid-1990s, there's plenty of cause for alarm. Let me jump down. I'm trying to find this 20. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Here we go. At 44 years old, Rice was the wealthiest person in the entire Obama cabinet upon her appointment in 2009. Her net worth clocked in between $23.5 million and $43.5 million, according to the Nonpartisan Center for Responsive Politics, that made her richer even than Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. 2 years at McKinsey and 2 years at IntelliBridge would not have net that kind of cash. Rice appears to be the beneficiary of substantial family money. While her parents were scholars, her mother helped design the Pell Grant system, and her father was the second African American on the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. Her husband, Ian Cameron, a former producer for ABC's This Week, is a scion of a Canadian lumber company. There we go. That's the meat and the potatoes on Susan Rice. Okay, in 2012, when Rice, then considered a rising star and Obama favorite, he never met a dollar he didn't love, except the ones that are meant to make ADOS whole, was up to replace Clinton as Secretary of State. Her personal finances proved controversial. Rice was a major stockholder in TransCanada, the company behind the recently shut down Keystone XL pipeline, which transported particularly dirty oil from tar sands in Canada to refineries in the United States. In fact, according to financial disclosures at the time, about a third of Rice's net worth was tied up in oil producers, pipeline operators, and energy industry affiliates. Hold on, family. Oh, that's not, I thought that was my strategist. That's not him. Okay. Let's do this. Let's do this. Yeah. What American descendant of chattel slavery do you know was worth $33.5 million by age 44? I'll wait. Put it in the chat. Okay, let's keep reading. The company behind the recently shut down Keystone XL pipeline, which transported particularly dirty oil from tar sands in Canada to refineries in the United States. In fact, according to financial disclosures at the time, about a third of Rice's net worth was tied up in oil producers, pipeline operators, and energy industry affiliates. She and her husband were also invested in Enbridge, the company behind the discharge of more than 1 million gallons of toxic tar sands oil into Michigan's Kalamazoo River. In 2010, the largest inland oil spill in American history, and BP of 2010's Deepwater Horizon spill, the largest offshore oil spill in history, period. I just feel like reading the rest of this. Coziness between TransCanada, thank you, strategist. Coziness between TransCanada and the State Department, which was elucidated in a cable obtained by WikiLeaks. How you doing, Julian Assange? Power to you, my brother. And then by leaked emails, and finally by a New York Times report that revealed that the State Department contractor tasked with producing an environmental assessment of Keystone XL had close ties. The pipeline's developer added to outrage from environmentalist groups Eventually, Rice was passed over for the job and became a national security advisor instead. This didn't lead her to rethink those investment choices. However, a 2015 disclosure report obtained by TMI, our last look into even some percentage of her holdings, shows a continued stake in TransCanada of between $50,000 and $100,000 and over $1 million in Enbridge. Between $1 million and $2 million in additional investments are split between 3 other Canadian fossil fuel companies developing the tar sands in Alberta. Overall, the 2015 disclosure shows holdings of between $15 million and $32.5 million in investments alone. And that's before the Netflix board seat and whatever other income has been gained in the Trump years. Rice is almost certainly richer now than she was in 2009, though we don't know where that wealth is coming from. But if that money was enough to functionally disqualify her from Secretary of State in 2012, it should certainly have an impact upon deciding her fitness for a higher role. Democratic voters have a right to know who's being put on their tickets. Certainly a lack of transparency, financial and otherwise, has been one of the most consistent indictments of Donald Trump for the Democratic side of the aisle. And before you go run tell that lie, I'm not a Trump supporter and I'm not a xenophobe. I feel it necessary on this show to unflatten blackness so the failure of ADOS, tethered as the anchor to the bottom of this country, can be unmasked. So don't y'all go spreading that lie. I didn't vote for Trump, although I'm not going there. We'll discuss it when you join the community, okay? More information is coming. As a matter of fact, let me see what your interest is in joining the community and weaponizing our vote and socialize our suffering. Hit me up at friendsofadostv@gmail. I want all the grassroots culminated under the Friends of ADOS community. I want to see if you're interested in joining me to get this work done. To the tune of, we'll settle on 50 trillion, but we starting at around 75 trillion. Okay, that's enough of that. I'm going to place this into, along with some other links. Since I'm on this one, I'm going to just share this one right now. I want to jump over to, oh my God. Strategists, I have tried really hard. I've still got 3 more people to do, and the comments to read, and I have to do the story time. I don't know how to do a 90-minute show. Let's just say I was born to talk, okay? And let's just, it is what it is. Okay, I'm going to try to get through these other ones quickly. Okay, let's come off of that. Now, let's go through the Congress people that have been elected. Let's go over to their platforms. Let's see here. Let me come back. Okay, give me a second. I'm going to bring these 3 platforms up so we can talk about it. The purpose of tonight's show is to let you know the folks running around here celebrating the fact that there are blacks in Congress, there's black in Biden's administration, because Susan Rice will have a spot in his administration, possibly the cabinet. I can't recall what she's being considered for, to tell you which, but I do know that she's going to be a party to all that. I've not seen anywhere that she is in support of reparations. None of the people I'm discussing with you right now, I can't find anywhere where they support the repair of the descendants of American chattel slave labor that built all the wealth they eat from. Okay, so let me pull up the platforms and then we'll share them one at a time. It just is what it is. I'm going to do my best. Okay, CoreyBush.org. Let's talk about Corey. So, oh, let me share it. I got all excited, like y'all can see it. Silly me. I get carried away sometimes. Y'all, I get excited. Yes, I do. I get excited exposing these Mickey Fickies. Shout out to Yvette Carnell, who taught me how to bring in that data. What? Shout out to Be the Power for showing me how to use my share screen. I appreciate y'all and I love y'all black and strong. Yes, I do. We need to know these things, family. We need to pull down this decadent veil so we don't blame ourselves for why we ain't got nothing. It's all been stolen. Don't blame yourself if you don't have wealth to give your children. They've stolen all of it and given away the rest to render us the bottom caste because capitalism needs a bottom. And these Mickey Fickies decided when they dragged us over here that the American Descendants of chattel slavery is it. And as I share with you, the veil falls off. And then everybody will get in this fight and do this work. Once again, email me, friendsofadostv@gmail. Let me know if you want to get down to do some work with me to turn this around legislatively for the ADOS. Friends of ADOS, Friends of American Descendants Chattel Slavery. ADOS's events, we'll get in trouble if we go there, okay? That's her baby. My baby is Friends of ADOS community. I'm calling all grassroots to the Friends of ADOS community because united we stand, divided we fall. I want everybody who want to help put in this work because there's a lot to be done so that by 2024, we will be a serious force to be reckoned with. Our vote is our hottest commodity. I'm going to share with you how we can weaponize it in 2024 to get our demands met, to get those reparations. Yes. And I want all those brilliant minds with me. Okay. Now, Cori Bush. Okay. Let me see. I got some notes that I can read about her while her picture stays right there. Let me jump to my notes. This is interesting. Hold on. Where are the notes? Lord have mercy. Oh, Happy J. Stuff on Hunter Biden. Marsha Fudge. Okay, let me go over here. Hold on one second, family. Okay, she actually won her race. This is a time in our history when complacency cannot be the standard. Americans today must decide between medication and rent. Our justice system over-incarcerates and our education system undereducates while millions of children live in poverty and thousands live in cages. I am running because our district deserves a purpose-driven leader with a proven track record of fighting for the people, even when it threatens my own life. I am running because I have seen that change can happen across this nation where regular people stand up fearlessly against an unjust system. So let's go to about Cori, since I can't find my notes. Okay. She's a nurse, pastor, single mom, and Ferguson-made activist running to represent Missouri in the U.S. Congress. As a lifelong St. Louisan, I understand the struggles of our communities because I've lived them myself. That's why my platform puts regular, everyday people first with solutions that are long overdue. Okay. So St. Louis, I'm giving you some context. St. Louis consistently has the highest violent crime rates, the highest murder rates, and the most police shootings in the nation. For 20 years, we've suffered while complacent leaders line their pockets with corporate contributions. I witnessed the failure of our elected officials firsthand when I treated people as a medic on the streets of Ferguson. Okay. So, given what she comes from, family, given who she is, let's see if she addresses the egregious racial wealth gap, right? Because being poor makes Ferguson a target. Wouldn't that seem to be the very likely thing to campaign on is the reparations? in the trillions over multi-generations? Wouldn't it stand to reason that someone with this background, nurse, pastor, single mom, medic, Ferguson, wouldn't that stand to reason that this particular American descendant of chattel slavery would run reparations as an issue akin to Tamara Johnson Shealy out of Georgia? Well, let's just see. Issues. Protecting our communities. I see LGBTQ plus equality, immigration reform, prison reform, criminal justice reform, and gender equality. Investing in social safety nets. Medicare for all. Green New Deal, housing for all. Building a future where we can thrive. Public safety, education for all. Economic justice. Campaign finance reform. Let's click under economic justice. Is reparations hiding in there? Economic justice is vital to ensure that every American, especially those currently living in poverty, has access to the capital to meet their basic needs and to thrive. Missouri's poverty rate stands at 14% higher than the national poverty rate at 12.7%. We have a population of about 5.9 million, meaning our state's poverty rate translates to 826,300 of our people living below the federal poverty line. How many of those are American descendants of chattel slavery? I will fight tooth and nail to ensure that all St. Louisans have economic security, equitable education, access to food and security, to food security and critical health access. She will work to increase the minimum wage to $15 per hour. That's not enough money to be American, not out here. But this is not where she's doing the work. So maybe in Missouri, $15 an hour can give you a six-figure lifestyle. Far be it for me. Support universal basic income in predatory lending and exploitation of communities of color by recapturing wealth from Wall Street and returning it to your backyard. Implement a federally funded public banking system. I don't hear nowhere in there about reparations for the state, akin to what California has done out here for the state under AB 3121, which we are actively engaged and involved in. Do you? I see communities of color. You see, when you can't, we need transformative politics, like Yvette has said many a times. We need transformative politics. You can't go spreading our reparations around to make all these other groups whole before ADOS. Because when you make everybody whole, where is ADOS when you raise everybody? We still tethered as the anchor to the bottom of this country. That is the fight we are in for our lives to prevent from becoming the permanent underclass. She's got nothing here. Speaking specifically to transformative politics for the ADOS. Strengthening unions. How's that helping ADOS when we don't have work, when most of our Black men are unemployed, are working gig jobs? If you don't have federal jobs guarantees, you're not really serious about anything you intend to do for the American descendants of chattel slavery. You're on some POC minority, let's fix everybody with the reparations that are owed us in the trillions. How are unions helping us if we can't get employed because of racism, institutional systemic racism? So moving on, let's close her out. I'm going to share Jamal Bowman. That's the other one I wanted. Okay. Hold on, family. Gotta pull it up. And then we'll do Warnock. Okay. Let's go to Jamal Bowman's issues. Now, he's a new congressman. He won his race. New York. Jamal is a middle school principal and has been a teacher and public school advocate for 20 years. He has seen firsthand how low-income families are being locked out of opportunity by a system that's rigged for the wealthy and privileged few. Another one that seems very enlightened, right? Jamal was born and raised in New York City, spent his early years in public housing and later in rent-controlled apartments. He didn't have much growing up, but his mother provided him all that he needed: love, a stable family, and a sense of community. Jamal now lives in Yonkers with his wife and 3 kids. His approach to being a teacher and principal at a Bronx middle school has been grounded in service, love, and empowering each person to transform our communities. Over the past 10 years, he has led community organizing efforts against standardized testing, the school-to-prison pipeline, and the corporate-driven privatization and chronic underfunding of our public schools. Let me see if you can see it. Oh, sorry, guys. Let me share. I left y'all out. All skin folk ain't kinfolk, babies. Y'all got to understand and become politically astute before we are extinct in this country, or at least reduced to living in third world shanties. So this is Jamal Bowman. Let me see. I want to see if he's ADOS. Because lineage matters. For those of you, why is she always concerned about people's ethnicity? Because the identity politics is a real racket that was ran on us under Obama, and it was ran on us again when Biden chose Kamala. You have to understand, you've got to unflatten blackness so you can see the failure of ADOS, or it gets masked in the success of these immigrants that are worth $1 bazillion within one generation. As I just explained through Susan Rice. Hold on, I have to ask this question differently. I'm curious about his ethnicity. Jamal Bowman. Melissa Oppenheimer is his wife. Melissa Oppenheimer. That doesn't sound like an American descendant of chattel slavery. I'm trying to figure out. Okay. Hold on. Is Jamal Bowman? Yeah, they're making it very difficult for me to find out his ethnicity in Google. Yeah, they won't let me look up his ethnicity. If one of you guys want to do that while I finish over on this thing, yeah, if one of you guys want to figure that out, that would be great if you could put it in the chat. Okay, so let's see the issues. Now he's got Reconstruction agenda. Woo, sounds interesting, right, family? So let's dig in. Okay. Reconcile with our history. America must reconcile with our history, get off our necks. Truth and Reconciliation Commission, he calls for that. It's time for us to root out the racism that's been part of this country since the very beginning. Get off our necks, transform criminal justice system. Let us breathe historic economic investment. So let's see what it says in the Reconstruction agenda. It's time for us to root out the racism that's been part of this country since the very beginning. We must confront the question of whether America can fulfill its revolutionary promise and become a democracy that guarantees freedom and justice for all, or whether the price paid for the original sin of slavery and white supremacy must be unceasing misery, poverty, and death. In his final book, he quotes Martin Luther King: ever since the birth of our nation, white America has had a schizophrenic personality on the question of race. She has been torn between selves, a self in which she proudly professed the great principles of democracy, and a self in which she sadly practiced the antithesis of democracy. This tragic duality has produced a strange indecisiveness and ambivalence, causing America to take a step backwards simultaneously with every step forward on the question of racial justice. We see the antithesis of democracy in the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and David McAtee. In a pandemic that disproportionately affects Black and brown communities, and in a White House that schedules a campaign rally in Tulsa, the site of white supremacist terror, on Juneteenth. Still today, we bear witness to an America that will shed blood to cling to power and privilege on the basis of race. Okay, but we also see the democracy America could become in the many millions who march for Black lives, each one carrying forward the torch passed on by revolutionaries, abolitionists, and the civil rights movements. Okay, Reconstruction is far from finished. Reconcile with our history. Okay, I'm going down. I see everything but money. Free college and canceling student debt. Tax the rich. Baby bonds. We are owed in excess of $50 trillion, and he wants baby bonds to close the racial wealth gap for everyone, like Cory Booker, right? This is a living document that will evolve over time. Well, let's hope so. So moving on to Warnock. Hold on. Warnock for Georgia. Let's go to his issues. Let me see if y'all can still see it. Hold on, I'll share. Oh my God. Let's look at Warnock, who's fighting for the Senate seat in Georgia, January 5th. He's got agriculture, climate, criminal justice reform, education, healthcare, infrastructure, jobs and economy, LGBTQ plus, reproductive rights, national security and defense, voting rights, veteran and military families. Maybe under jobs and economy, he's got reparations. Let's see if it's hiding under there. Oh no, we're building an economy that works for everyone. There will be no reparations here. Now, you are head of Martin Luther King Jr.'s church. Martin Luther King Jr. was executed because he was coming for that check. And you don't have reparations nowhere on your platform with Tamara Johnson Shealy, with no money, captured 106,000 votes because she ran on reparations. So, to put a button on it, family, to put a bow, all skin folk and kinfolk. And we have to understand that just because they look like us don't mean they're doing a damn thing for us. We must be educated politically. We must, or we're going to continue this lesser to evil two-step shuffle to our own peril. None of what's going on in Congress, it don't even really matter if Georgia gets it, right? If the Democrats win Georgia, those 2 Senate seats, these are moderate Republicans in Democratic clothing. They have nothing in mind for you. And then you got a president whom black folks, not me, elected, that told the civil rights leaders, he talked down to them as if they were his little slave children. He doubled down on nothing will fundamentally change and talked down to them in the process. My mama has always taught me, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. That audio was deplorable. As I saw Al Sharpton on Jason Black's show, giving him cover when he got into the general population. Like the great, well-paid lackey he is. And this is why we have to come together to do this work. So let's go to the comments and then I'll get to the reading. Oh my God, where am I at? Well, it is what it is, family. Great for your Angela Nirvana. Oh, thank you. Everybody should be watching this. You better believe it, Patrice Lane Jordan. Everybody should be watching it. If you're over in YouTube, thumbs up, like, share, subscribe. Thank you, Astrid Mauer, one of my largest donors to the show. Thank you for all the donations, large and small. My Cash App is $for ADOS TV, and my PayPal me is Friends of ADOS TV. I appreciate everything you do. It not only helps the show, it's going to be utilized in the community to get some real legislation and to buy us some politicians. Because it's clear that we're outmoneyed. Even if we pull all our dollars together, we have no wealth, so we have to use what we have to live on, okay? But we can at least amass enough between us to buy some influence with some of the left, more progressive-leaning politicians, like a Cori Bush is someone we might be able to talk to. And Anna Presley, I know that ADOS Boston have been in touch with her. I know they're doing some things in Columbus with the senator that's going to take over, what's her name, Betty? Oh, I can't think of her last name. She's going to take over the CBC. So I know that we're working, but we got to put in more work. We need all hands on deck. Okay. Your Soul Train, welcome to the live. I'm just reading the pertinent comments so I can get to the reading. I'm not going to read as much, maybe about 4 pages. My specialist says you guys get ear fatigue, but you're the co-host of the show. I have to read your comments. ADOS, Nisi Lord, thank you for joining the live. ADOS, the caffeine is kicked in. We are awake and we read the data. Nisi Lord, fire. Yes, baby. You really are giving important information to us, Sheila Boyd Lee says. I thank you for believing it is as important as it is to me. Thank you for joining the live. Greetings, Deborah Burrow. Oh, one of my other big contributors. Thank you, Deborah. God bless you for that nice, lovely donation you laid on the Faux ADOS TV. I love you, Black and Strong, my sister. Thank you for supporting the show and for supporting the community. That's what I'm going to start calling it, the Friends of ADOS community. Got to get it done, family. Our children are counting on us to get this done. Okay? So if you need a place to sling bricks, here I am, family. Come join me. ADOS children, it's so wonderful to see you on the live. Ali Bay, that's Be the Power is in the building. I am feeling very esteemed to have you over here. Thank you for joining the live, Ali Bay. Oh, I can't wait to have them brothers. Now, see, Ali Bay couldn't make that show with his other Be the Power brothers, so he owed me some FaceTime over here at the Friends of ADOS TV, Ali Bay. You owe me. Okay, I jumped down too far. I can't. Listen here. My chat is my co-host. I've got to read because they can't call in yet. It's coming. I got a strategist, y'all. I'm spending big money on the strategist to help me make this thing go national and international. I don't know how to do it, so he's going to help me get it done, okay? And that's what your donations help me do. Helps me pay for him. No weapons of mass destruction. Right, that part. Margaret McCall says, what is Bicep going to do about the other people who got out of the primary for him, like Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar, and Bernie Sanders? Amy Klobuchar may become the Attorney General. Lord, please, Margaret. I just felt a pain in my head for that comment. Margaret, don't make me have to break out the alcohol early. Don't make me have to go in here and blend me one of my new favorites, frozen brandy Alexander with ice cream, with that dark creme de cacao, and that V-Sop of E&J in the blender with some vanilla bean. Don't make me have to abandon my show to go blend me one of those. Talk about Amy Klobuchar as the AG. She's another top cop prosecutor. Oh my God, her record is diabolical. Margaret, I can't even listen to you right now. He's got plans for Pete Buttigieg. He's got plans. He's got 4,000 in his administration, so I'm sure there's going to be more to share. Right now, I haven't dug into the rest of these and where they'll be placed because I was just dealing with people in my feed celebrating Biden for his black picks. I just want you to know that it's a nothing burger like him. That was my whole point in this show. I haven't dissected the others. Maybe another show. I usually am doing things relative to the reparations and making the argument for why it's needed. And yes, of course, they factor in there, but there's so many ADOS hot topics to get to that I haven't done those yet. So family, forgive me. It's hot in here because I can't open up my screen door. Listen here, because I'm loud. And I don't need, the white neighbors hearing all this radicalness. I don't know how, you don't want nothing to happen to your property. So, I don't know. I don't think any of Trump's people are down here, but you never can tell. So it's just better to close off everything. So forgive me. I'm going to take off my jacket and take a sip. Okay. Y'all can sip when I sip. Okay. Otherwise, get to chatting. Why.info. By being placed over blacks as managers, Hispanics will be used to bully blacks in government in an effort to drive us out of such jobs, and we will witness the lie of so-called black and brown unity. Baby boo, you said a mouthful there. Not just the Hispanics. How about the African immigrants and the Caribbean immigrants being weaponized against us? How about there won't be any jobs because they're in a position down here to hire us? Lots of discrimination going on. We have no social capital. Okay? None. Do you hear me? So it took me, oh my God. When I left Wells Fargo, it took me, let's see here, at least a good year to find the job I currently work. At least a good year. Thank God for my family who helped hold me up in between time and in the meantime. Do you hear me? Because they are at the hiring tables. And when you have an ADOS name, they don't call you in for interviews. When you don't speak Spanish, they don't call you. And I swear, I got to find that will. Y'all not going to believe how many people he's considering that are Hispanic in his administration. It is going to blow your entire mind. I got to find it. But yeah, understand that not only will you be bullied into leaving, they're going to be worse than your white oppressors. Because white folks come with a tinge of guilt in the things they do to you in the labor market. But these immigrants, not the immigrant allies, but the ones who are just like your white oppressors, the ones that come into this country that got money and wealth position that they don't tell you not of, they want you to believe that you're competing with orange pickers. Wells Fargo replaced the majority of American descendant chattel slavery with Asians and Hispanics. These folks come from money and education. So don't believe that all the immigrants they're planning to let into this country, about 22 million, with H-1B visas, Kamala's people, who are worth 450,000 liquid down here to the ADOS 200 liquid. You heard. Don't believe the hype that these people don't come from nothing. They're going to open up these borders to 22 million more immigrants. That's not only going to kill, that's going to wipe us off the map. As California goes, so goes the nation. Look at who your government is being comprised of. Biden and the white folks, the white liberals, have decided to join forces with Hispanics to keep us tethered to the bottom as the permanent underclass. Hit me up at friendsofadostv@gmail if you want to participate with me in doing something about that. Okay? Margaret McCall, English needs to be the official language of the USA. Not anymore. 70 million immigrants to 35 million ADOS. 40 million if you include immigrants. It's probably more than that by now and fewer of us since government-sanctioned executions and COVID. You see, when you're African down here and you're worth 60,000 liquid, you don't live in our communities. You're not the ones they're aiming for. Okay? You got premium health care at 60,000 liquid because you're living amongst white folks. Because why? What do I teach over here, family? The color of white in this country is green. They have privilege that we're not afforded. So English being the official language, not anymore, darling. No. Since I'm here, welcome to the live. Facebook wouldn't let me make a comment. Darling, I am having so many issues with Facebook. I pray that my strategist saw that. Facebook would not let one of my faithful watchers, since I'm here, it looks like she's watching it from YouTube. We've got to fix it so y'all can be able to freely comment. I don't understand. That's why you left Facebook to come to YouTube so you could comment. My apologies, guys. Please join me in YouTube. Facebook has put me in jail. It's been a nightmare, and we're really trying to recover from that. So please sign up, Friends of ADOS TV in YouTube, and turn on the notifications and share. Thank you. I'm sorry since I'm here. They're really coming for me. ADOS Truth, I see you, family. I'm telling it black. I'm telling it strong. Yes, boo-boos. Patrice Lang Jordan, yes, I call the Democrats Republican light. They're not Republican light. They are flat out. Look it up. Obama admitted that he's more of a moderate Republican, as are the rest of them. There's really no difference. There's only one big old party at the expense of American descendants of chattel slavery. How can you make a claim against the U.S.? She's trying so hard. Lord, I love my grandma Buffy. She just turned 92. She just turned 92, and she doesn't understand the text I'm sending her is, I will call you back. She just recently received a birthday gift. All she wanted was some white letter-size envelopes so that she can do mailers to her HOA. God bless her. I got to silence the phone because I try to keep it on in case my guy share the Cash App. Okay, in the chat. Okay, I'll share my Cash App in the chat. Hold on 1 second, guys. God bless her. She's trying to call me to thank me for 2 boxes of envelopes that I sent her, security grade, so that she could communicate with her HOA. Now, if you would ask me what I wanted for my birthday, oh my God. Let me count the ways. She just wanted at 92. She's got everything. She's my church family. She just want envelopes. God bless her. Okay, so yeah. How can you make a claim against the U.S. prior to it being formed? I don't know. But I do know that it was the heinous chattel slave labor from 1619 to 1776 that build the bulk of the wealth. So we're going to have to figure it out. We're going to have to put our brains together and figure that out. I can't just settle on the fact that we're just going to be out $1 bazillion. No, I'm going to put some of the brightest minds together to see how we can bring that claim, because it is all of that benefited the country that they grew from there. So they don't just get a pass and get to wipe that away. I have to figure it out, and I have to get with great, brilliant minds that can help me figure it out, because that's what you do. You have to leverage the people around you. Media engagement solutions. Okay, thank you for that. Mike Michelson, Darity goes back to 1776 because the U.S. was not a sovereign entity until that time. Before then, we would have to approach the European colonizers, not the U.S. Thank you, Mike. Join me in the Friends of ADOS community, because we must go after that. It doesn't just get a pass. Okay, it's a whole new claim with different defendants. I got it. Well, let's get together and strategize, because we don't just have to go after the U.S. We can go after everybody. Africa too. So, yeah, maybe that's my wheelhouse, is to deal with that portion. But I know more than 17 trillion is owed post the country being formed. We're not just talking slavery. We're talking Jim Crow and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage. So that number is still quite low, and it needs to be revisited. I don't agree with 17 trillion. Carlos Robbins, hello, Queen. I'm late for class, but I'll catch up in the podcast. Thank you, Carlos Robbins. Welcome to the live. YVOC info. I am happy for Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield. Oh, I forgot her. And ADOS being selected as UN ambassador. It is unfortunate that Trump initially fired her, a career diplomat. Yes, I'm very pleased for Linda Greenfield. Very, very pleased for her. You're absolutely right. I forgot to mention her because I lost a lot of my notes. I'm sorry, family. I'll get that together. I spent hours putting those links together, and that was lost. She is not in, I don't think she's in the cabinet. That's why I missed her. She's in the administration, though, and I'm very, very happy for her to be restored to her position. I think, Nisi Lord, I think Biden purposefully put Fudge there, put her in an area that she's not an expert. Nisi Lord, you've got some valid argument there. Absolutely. I do want to talk about Vilsack a little bit more in that respect. Okay. It had mentioned in one of the articles I had researched. I won't do that now because I'm running out of time. It had mentioned about how Vilsack works by and large with corporatists in agriculture, and how it's always been at the expense of the ADOS. It has always been at the expense of the ADOS farmers. That's why they are so anti. They are so anti Vilsack, because he's a corporatist, and anything corporatist has never ended well for American descendants of chattel slavery. So I think it's two-pronged. Put her someplace where she's not an expert, and at the same time put someone in there to do the corporatist bidding to take more away from the ADOS. Mike Michelson, strategist. My strategist told me not to talk about that. Angela. Yes, my strategist told me, my strategist gives me a lot of insight in terms of how to be effective, more effective in my show, in my space. And I value his opinion about a lot of things to help me make the show better, because I am trying to bring more allies. So some things I'm going to have to stay away from. And COVID is one of them. I'm going to do my best to stay away from that. I'm going to try. Carlos Robbins, Angela, you're in luck because there will only be 2 planetary retrogrades in December 2020. And no, these retrogrades won't involve any of the inner planets, meaning Mercury, Venus, or Mars, which are the only retrogrades you really need to worry about anyway. Carlos, what are you talking about, my love? Welcome to the live. I don't know what any of that has to do with what I'm talking about, but okay, that's what you're on. Okay. Media Engagement Solutions, run me my check, hashtag yes. Yes. Carlos says, Tom Vilsack, remember Shirley Sherrod? Vilsack fired her on bogus charges without asking for Sherrod to give her side of the story. Lord have mercy. So much has been done. Patrice agrees with me. Black is not flat. Satra Delry 360, welcome to the live. Martin C. Banner, welcome to the live. Margaret McCall, Susan Rice is not in the cabinet. Yeah, she's going to be a part of the administration, though. She was always problematic. She was stupid enough to take the fall for Hillary Clinton during Benghazi, and she cannot get away from that scandal. Well, she's rich enough to do whatever she damn well pleases. Susan Rice, Carlos says, whose maternal grandparents are Jamaicans, was appointed last week, here we go, as the director of the White House Domestic Policy Council. Wow. Thank you, Carlos. At 400years.org. Teach, we learning. That's what I love to hear, family. Thank you for joining the live. Alaves 192. I don't read Spanish, but I thank you for being on the live. Since I'm here, one, too many of our people won't admit they made a mistake with voting for Obama and that he was horrible for Black wealth. Honey, we lost over 43% of our wealth while he created 1 million white millionaires during his tenure. He bailed out Wall Street, wouldn't put audits on them, wouldn't put restrictions on them. And we lost most of our wealth. And now, with the pandemic, we're losing the rest, being completely wiped off. We don't have to wait till 2053 to be wealthless. It's already happening. Adrian Taylor, hi, Adrian. I lived in downtown Kalamazoo, home of Western Michigan University. Welcome to the live, my love. Jerry Hinton, pull the covers off and expose them for their lack of ADOS participation. Jerry Hinton, that's what I'm over here to do. Expose them. Drop that decadent bell. Welcome to the live. Okay. Strategist, back to the drawing board. Oops, he calling. Mike Michael says, stop clowning. Jacaranda Williams, thank you for joining the live, my love. They gave the immigrant peasants ADOS's money. Oh, yes, darling. It's not just the peasants, though. They've enriched the ones with money that they don't tell you nothing about. They want you to believe that everybody's, a poor orange picker. Well, they got you competing with the highly educated and the highly financial from all these countries. Because the poor ones can't afford to come here. That's why those are ones down there in jail, in the DACA border jails. Not DACA, but in those immigrant borders where they separate the mothers from the children. The ones in Biden's administration, they ain't that. They come from that shmoney, baby. And they're lying and deceiving the ADOS to make you believe that it's just a bunch of poor folks that we need to put on the tit. Well, I'm here to throw everybody off the tit, okay? Patrice Lang Jordan, they have given everyone money except American descendants of chattel slavery, and their intent is to give all of our reparations away. Yep. Jacaranda says it is ADOS time now. Well, we're fighting for that, and we need all hands on deck. Patrice says, why are we so shy about what belongs to us, reparations? There's a lot of shame, Patrice. People don't even like me referring to us as American descendants of chattel slavery. Why wouldn't you be proud to come from that lineage, to know that that is the blood that courses through your veins? That is what animates our bodies. That is why we're still here, 35 million strong. They've been trying to extinct us since we got here, after they used up the shoes. Okay? They've been trying to expatriate us and kick us out of the country since Lincoln and before. So people are not just shy about it, they are ashamed. People are literally ashamed that I talk about the racism that I've been met with down here. Not you guys, but I see them in my chat. Stop acting like a victim. You're an elitist, advocating for social justice. All kind of names I've been called. And they don't like that I openly share with you guys about my plight as an educated, very experienced Black woman down here, ADOS woman down here in Southern California. The racism has come for me, which is why I got into this fight. Okay? To use my voice and my resources to help the least of us, because the God I serve said, to whom much is given, much is required. I don't get to just be sitting up in luxury, a 20-minute walk to the beach, and not be concerned by the least of us, which is the most of us. I've already shared with you that of the 3 trillion we share, 10% of us, which are mostly immigrants, share 2.3 trillion. The others of us share less than 700 billion. So, Warnock, absolutely at 400 years. You better know it. That mean face is on by design, because he has nothing for you while preaching, using King's pulpit. What's the name of that church? Somebody put in the chat. Ebenezer? No. I can't think of the name of that famous church that he spearheads. While doing nothing for the people. Someone wrote in one of the chats prior that literally ADOS is sleeping on the steps. I guess before they scooped them off before their Sunday services. And he won't run reparations on his platform. Nisi Lord said, find his mama, you will know everything. Okay? Boom, shakalaka. You talking about Jamal Bowman. Yeah, they seem to have conveniently hidden that. You can't just look up his ethnicity. I tried a number of ways to find out what he descends from, to no avail. Patrice Lang Jordan, they don't want you to find out. That's right, they don't want me to find out. Because now that we're hit to the identity politics, that information is not so readily available anymore. They know that we have awakened, and we're awakening the masses to the tricks that are being played to keep us sheeple, lining up to the polls at our people's own peril. They don't want me to know, because I would expose it. And if they don't want me to know, that means he's not American descendant of chattel slavery. He may be first generation immigrant here. Many of them from the Caribbean live in New York. And they came from nothing, but were giving set-asides and various entitlements, and came up on the affirmative action that was due us. That's how they got their education and climbed right on top of us. Oh, yeah. And it's not that we don't try, but when you allow everybody to come in from other foreign countries to identify as us, hence why we're untethering, unflattening blackness, then by the time we get to apply, there's nothing left. It's been absorbed in the set-asides for that particular group. African American black. Yep, Judas Goat. Astrid Mara Evans, thank you so much for joining the live. This is one of my other big-time donors of the Friends of ADOS TV and community. I love you, Black and Strong. Thank you. Oh, yeah, I got to shout these big donors out, honey. They are really helping me to offset some of my expenses. Let's see here. And I'm grateful because aggregated dollars help me too. Please don't think that I only accept large gifts. I accept gifts of all kinds, and I'm grateful for every penny. Thank you, guys. Mike Michelson, Smichael, who grew up in the 16th district, said that Bowman held great appeal to voters who resembled his parents. Jamaican immigrants who saw education as a liberator. Source the 74million.org. That's why I couldn't find his ethnicity. He's Jamaican. There you have it. You got a reconstruction plan without any reparations. Make it make sense. All skin folk and kinfolk family. Y'all better learn how to do this work so you don't march your people off a cliff. Darity, Kane Lover 90, welcome to the live. Darity also calls for baby bonds. That's actually in lockstep with the ADOS. Oh, okay. That's fine. We have to be more sophisticated with our arguments. Okay. Listen here. Baby bonds is not just, Darity is speaking in terms of baby bonds for ADOS. I don't think he's speaking for baby bonds for the entire collective, akin to what I just read. No. Not everyone should get baby bonds. I hope that's more sophisticated for you, Kane Lover. Patrice Lane Jordan, these folks are bogus. This disgusts me how other ADOS people will try to silence us because we are speaking up. Yes, yes, and more yes, Patrice Lane Jordan. That's what they're doing. Okay. It jumped. Not me. Thank you for working for us. Thank you for educating us. You are so welcome. Deborah Burrow, she gave me a bunch of targets. I guess I'm landing on the bull's eye. Antonio Thomas, welcome to live. What's up, sis? ADOS Street in the house. Thank you, ADOS Street, for allowing me to share on your pages to all of the ADOS out here. Thank you for allowing me to share to your pages about my show and helping me to grow the numbers that get to see this information. And thank you to all of my woke ADOS in the movement. I'm so grateful for your advocacy, for your activism, and for your studying of the debt that is owed in the trillions over multi-generations, and for standing on your square. Yes, Mike Michelson, VSOP. That's the kind of E and J brandy that I like with my dark creme de cacao and my ice cream with my nutmeg blended. Oh, vanilla bean. You can only have one of those after you've lost maybe 10 pounds, like a victory kind of drink. It's very fattening. Angela, I think Jamal Bowman is ADOS. Mike Michelson just said he descends from Jamaican parents. When you're in New York, you're more than likely, if you are in Congress, it's difficult for ADOS to get into Congress. 9 times out of 10, you're Caribbean immigrant. Now, mind you, in reading The Black Tax, The Cost of Being Black in America, we have found out that some Caribbean immigrants did slavery here. So, that's something to consider. So you're an immigrant yourself? You're from Africa. Stop talking about immigrants. Shut up. These racists hate you more than immigrants. Oh, who is this? Docket. The kid is not my son. No, I am an American descendant of chattel slavery. Do you see me? Do I look African to you? I ain't got nothing against African immigrants. What are you talking about? I need to make the distinction. I've got all kinds of rape up in my lineage. If you were here at the last show, you would have heard me let you know that by 1808, they stopped importing Africans into this country and started breeding us on breeding farms. So the white masters and all his folks and his whoever took a turn on the slaves that were here. We've been here since 1619. By 1808, they stopped importing Africans because it was not profitable. It was more profitable to rape us. That's why I look the way I do. So I am a proud American descendant of chattel slavery. Not proud of the enslavement, proud to be on the planet breathing. So if me talking about Africans has some place to land in you as an insult, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Don't come up here in my feed with this foolishness, because I'm choosing to see what time it is that many African immigrants descend from slave traders, and they hate me as much as my white oppressors. If you're an ally, I'm not speaking to you. There's no official language in America. It's called English. Moving on. Sandra Del Rey, 360, 40 acres and 2 mules, salary from 1776 to 1865. Slavery, black codes, deconstruction, Jim Crow, Planned Parenthood, and mass incarceration. You know the debt. Peace and love, C. Ruffin. Thank you for joining the live. Rhonda Carroll. Well, his VP choice is neither ADOS nor pro-reparations, but many black folks supported them both. Rhonda Carroll, you're absolutely right. 85% of blacks in this country thought we were better served to replace a racist in office of 4 years with a combined racist in office 65-year between Biden and Kamala. It just shows us how much work we have left to do. Mike Michelson, I tried to delete that, sus. I think they may have been talking about the other person in that quote being Jamaican. Sorry about that. Okay, hopefully Jamal Bowman is ADOS. But if he is, we need to have a conversation. If he is or if he isn't, we need to have a conversation, because he needs to be talking about reparations and the trillions over multi-generations to close the over $100 trillion egregious racial wealth gap. Class-based policies don't fix that. Okay, that's all the comments. So let me jump in. Story time. Ladies and gents, for those of you who want to hear. Okay, so last time we left off, I was sharing with you about the researchers having estimated that the value of labor extracted from enslaved Africans was up to 24 trillion and others up to 97 trillion. Shawn D. Rochester, the black tax, the cost of being black in America, he took a conservative evaluation of up to 50 trillion, which is the effective size of tax imposed on black people between 1619 and 1860. So what the ADOS movement is suggesting from Darity's number, 17 trillion, that 17 trillion is sufficient between 1776 and 1860, our emancipation. I don't agree. I feel like unless you factor in Jim Crow and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage, you are lowballing the ADOS, and that number needs to be revisited. These estimates do not include any costs associated with the unimaginable pain and suffering, murder, rape, torture, separation of families, denied entrepreneurial enterprise, denial of education, theft of inventions and intellectual property, denial of freedom and the right to pursue happiness that accompanied the daily life of a slave over the course of 17 generations. And my question to you, family, is what has changed? Thank you, Satra Del 360. Immigrants volunteered to travel to the USA. We were dragged here because Africans participated in our enslaved trade. That's how my people got here. Our Africans sold us. Maybe some of us were stolen, but we've already heard from the author of the Wall Street article, I think it was, my great-grandfather was a Nigerian slave trader, to help the ADOS in this country understand that not every African slave in this country was stolen by the European devils. Okay? We were literally traded for silly shit like alcohol and material. Okay? Somewhere sprinkled in were a few elites that were traded into slavery. I've read some of that. But for the most part, we were slaves over in Africa that were traded for material and the like. Beads and jewelry or whatever they were bartering with as money during that time. That's what I descend from. My coloring and my features are from the rapes and the breeding farms. So let's jump ahead because I have to finish section 2 to explain to you the history of how we got here, the history of the black tax. This is part 2 of Shawn's book, The Black Tax. So let's dig in. Black tax from 1870 to 1935, Jim Crow society. The last show we did, the black tax following emancipation, the 40 acres and a mule that was taken from us, and the Homestead Act. When the Homestead Act was passed, let me read you that. The Homestead, okay, so they took away our 40 acres and a mule. This is just a little overview of what happened last time. Given the repugnant historical treatment of black people in America since 1619, wait, let me jump. What is very interesting is that in 1862, the U.S. Congress passed the Homestead Act, which would distribute 246 million acres over the next 60 years to 1.5 million white families. That would be worth between $740 billion and $1.6 trillion at 2015 land prices, which is the equivalent of giving $500,000 to $1 million per family. So they took away our 40 acres and a mule and enriched white folks. It says this massive and an unprecedented government giveaway helped draw 24 million white immigrants from overpopulated countries in Europe to America, which was seen as a land of enormous opportunity. Of the 1.5 million families that received the homestead land, 99.73% went to white families. Did you hear me? 100% went to white families. Researchers estimate that up to 93 million Americans today are direct beneficiaries of this enormous wealth generating program. While y'all sit up and want to fight with me over going for 75 trillion. Now we can argue over who to go pursue it from, but it's still owed. And this government owes more than 17 trillion. You got a third of the population, white folks, that benefited while how many slaves? During the first 8 years after the Homestead Act was passed, over 1 million former slaves got sick or died from exposure and disease. Let's get talking about Europe and going after that money. If y'all don't want to pursue it from this country, who's benefiting from it? In 1861, raw cotton accounted for 61% of all U.S. exports, according to Seven Beckert, professor of history at Harvard University. Up to 20 million people worldwide were involved in the cultivation of cotton and the production of cotton cloth within the most dynamic and far-reaching production complex in human history. This global cotton production complex relied almost entirely on the free labor from 4 million black slaves in America, who by 1860 were 80% of the craftsmen in the South and accounted for approximately 70% of the labor force in the states of South Carolina, Georgia, and Mississippi, and upwards of 60% in a number of neighboring states. Due to the outbreak of the Civil War and the ensuing precipitous drop in cotton production, close to 1 million people lost their cotton-related jobs across Europe and in other nations with cotton industries. The resulting devastation of the Civil War and the emancipation of 4 million enslaved black people left southern states decimated and the world economy in a global cotton famine. Now, during this cotton famine, a primary concern around the world was how would America put her newly freed people back to work? The answer to that question was the establishment of a system of laws and customs coupled with extreme violence that would reinstitute Southern white supremacist control. This system became known as Jim Crow, and its aim was to reduce newly freed and virtually penniless black people to a large, cheap, readily available labor force with no political or economic power. This would be relatively easy to accomplish since by 1870, newly freed black Americans owned only about 0.17% of American wealth and were largely unable to provide for their own basic needs. So I wrote a note here. I need you to, good evening, Tanya Princess Jones. Welcome, my love, to the live. I need you to understand that this government creates the problems and then seeks the American descendant of chattel slavery votes to in turn become the solution. Don't that beat all? The foundation of this new system was a construct called sharecropping. I've had William Dickens on my show to share with you about his father, who died from 8 heart attacks from sharecropping in the South. Died. They didn't want to give him the money that was owed. He was a sharecropper. And when William Dickens, who did a bid in jail, was released and asked the state to, in fact, hire him for the same job he did in jail, they told him because of his record, they couldn't hire him and pay him the salary through the state. But if he wanted the job back, he could do something to go back to prison for that job. He too was a sharecropper. And when he asked for a raise, I mean something really nominal, like to be raised to $11 an hour, the sharecroppers told him, the owners of the owners of the plantation told William Dickens, who's in the movement, that they were not giving him a raise. They only asked for the raise because he saw some John Deere equipment on the property that he knew as a self-educated ADOS cost, I want to say he saw 2 pieces of equipment that was about $500,000 a piece. So he in turn went to the people to ask for an increase in his meager wages. And they told him, we won't give you a raise, but we'll give you a home on this property, so you can continue to sharecrop. Now he has gone on to do exceptionally well for himself. So I'm not telling you this to make a victim of him, because he pulled himself up by his bootless straps, akin to what every American of descendant of chattel slavery has had to do. Like I tell many people who want to try to say that we play the victim because we're fighting for reparations that are owed, we've been pulling ourselves up by our bootless straps, or we wouldn't be 35 million strong in this country had we not. We were 4 million post-slavery. We've grown 31 million without the assistance of this government. So that's how long sharecropping has been going on. It still goes on in the South, as we've been voting for the Democrats since FDR. The foundation of this new system was a construct called sharecropping. In a sharecropping contract, a white landowner would contract with a black laborer to plant and harvest cash crops. Listen up, Northerners. You don't understand what's going on with our people in the South. You're going to learn today. In a sharecropping contract, a white landowner would contract with a black laborer to plant and harvest cash crops. Since the black laborer had no land or capital, the white landowner would extend him credit at interest rates often as high as 70% to buy food for his family. And any tools, seeds, fertilizer, and all other supplies necessary for planting and harvesting the cash crops. In exchange for his work, the black laborer would be paid based on a share of the crops he produced, minus any expenses owed to the white landowner. In addition, white landowners would set the terms and the conditions for all aspects of the contract, including 1, the interest rate on the credit that they extended to the black laborers, and 2, the market price for the cash crops that were produced by the black laborers. In this way, the white landowner controlled the black laborer's income, i.e., what he earned on his share of the crops, and his expenses, i.e., the cost of debt and prices of food, materials, and supplies. They re-enslaved us through sharecropping, which meant that the white landowner determined whether or not the black laborer would have any money left over to provide for himself and his family. Y'all, this is the only section I'm going to read tonight. Because I'm already over. I'm stopping at the end of this section. A few more pages. Buckle up, buttercups. Get your libations. I'll try to keep my comments to a minimal. Landowners acutely aware that any worker fully clear of his debts might then attempt to relocate to a friendlier or more generous white property holder, routinely exaggerated costs and interest so that virtually no sharecroppers could ever fully extinguish their obligations. They didn't want you to go someplace where your life could be made any easier. This is how the oppressor put their boot on our necks and keep it on there to this day by not paying us commensurate wages to our white counterparts, women and men alike. If the black laborer questioned or protested, he could face violent and lethal repercussions. As one former sharecropper put it, I have been living in this Delta 30 years, and I know that I have been robbed every year, but there is no use jumping out of the pot into the fire. If we ask questions, we are cussed. If we raise up, we are shot, and that ends it. This placed the black laborer in a position where he was unable to accumulate any wealth and was in perpetual debt servitude. And y'all want to fight with me over baby bonds for every damn body. And 17 trillion. Which is not nearly enough, and it's not what the cost of the debt is truly need to be valued at. The situation was sometimes so draconian that in many cases, if the black laborer could not fulfill the terms of the contract, even if it was because he was sick, the white landowner could outsource his work at the black laborer's expense. Rest in power, Mr. Dickens. heart attacks. He kept going back to the sharecropping farms because he had to. It would have been at his expense. It finally killed him. With this immoral and grotesquely unjust sharecropping construct, you would expect the newly freed person to simply not honor the terms of the contract. Unfortunately, Southern authorities passed contract enforcement laws which impose criminal sanctions for the breach of an employment contract. In his book, The Shadow of Slavery in 1972, Pete Daniel wrote, under such laws, a laborer who signed a contract and then abandoned his job could be arrested for a criminal offense. If you sign that contract and then abandon your job, you could be arrested. Ultimately, the black laborer's choice was simple. He could either work out his contract or go to the state or county chain gang. You might think an option for the newly freed person could be to simply not enter a sharecropping contract in the first place, right? The challenge with that is the black laborer did not have many alternative forms of employment and would end up unemployed, landless, and without a means to feed himself or his family. They stuck him between the rock and the hard place. Mike Michelson says, my great-grandfather was a sharecropper where I was born in South Carolina. He had 9 children and had to pack the family up and move several times in the middle of the night because he was cheated over and over. To ensure that there would always be a cheap supply of black labor, Southern authorities passed various vagrancy laws. Alabama's vagrancy law, passed in September 1903, was fairly typical. It defined a vagrant as any person wandering or strolling about in idleness who is able to work and has no property to support him. Me speaking. This is the same tactics used by corporate with 3 Ks America when they want to keep you in bondage or when they want to get rid of you. You think calling up HR to talk about the discrimination on the job is helping you. No, they are the overseers for the masters and will come up with any kind of way to extinct you from corporate when you don't toe the line, when you don't allow the racism to continue. They will find another way. And that's akin to what they were doing during sharecropping. Put you between a rock and a hard place. So if you didn't work it, you'd be on the chain gang. Or you'd be leased out to that property after being arrested. You'd still have to go fulfill the contract. And if you had no contract and refused to enter into one, not only were you penniless, but they came up with laws to put you back in prison, to put you in prison, vagrancy laws. Alabama's vagrancy law, passed in September 1903, was fairly typical. It defined a vagrant as any person wandering or strolling about in idleness who is able to work and has no property to support him, or any person leading an idle, immoral, profligate life, having no property to support him. They could just put you back in prison. People who were convicted of these vagrancy laws were often sentenced to state or county chain gangs. These vagrancy laws caused many black laborers to voluntarily attach themselves to white landowners for marginal wages to avoid being convicted and return to the same farm as uncompensated laborers in shackles and without their freedom. TFLG 325, welcome to the live, says imported Caribbeans enslaved in the U.S. before slavery was abolished in this country weren't Caribbeans anymore. Just like we were no longer Africans. Okay. Patrice says, and once they locked you up, next step, convict leasing. They find new ways to enslave ADOS. Now we've got 1 million black men in prison, in the private prison industrial complex, and 85% of our elected voted for Jim Crow Sloppy Joe, author of the 94 crime bill, and Cali's top cop, Skamala the Chameleon, who told the governor when she was AG that she could not release the prisoners because who would put out her fires in the white heels for $1 a day? That's who 85% of blacks just voted into office. But y'all want to convince me that Trump is more evil than the evil y'all just replaced him with. When Trump, in fact, was a lesser two evil, and can't nobody run me those data about what he's done more egregious than to keep up this nonsense. At the expense of American descendants of chattel slavery. Y'all can talk about how mean he is and how much he says, but what has he done? More egregious than the two you just elected. To further the exploitation of the black laborer, many state, county, and local jails in the South engaged in convict leasing. Here we go, Patrice. Which was the practice of leasing out convicts to private firms for profit. Isn't that what's happening in the private prison industrial complex? Aren't they being used for slave wages? Isn't the government paying for the state for those beds to lock up ADOS? Many of whom are on lockdown due to nonviolent offenses because they can't afford bail and they can't afford legal representation. Thanks to Jim Crow Joe, Jim Crow Sloppy Joe, author of the 94 crime bill, thanks to Bill Clinton and the 3 strikes. Oh, thank you, Crop79. God bless you for your cash app. Oh, I just love y'all black and strong. Thank you for the donation. It will go a long way to help American descendants of chattel slavery. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for that. That just thrills me that y'all support my work. I'm so proud to represent you. It just, I love y'all black and strong. Thank you. Okay. Let me find my place. That just thrilled me. To further the exploitation of the black laborer. Okay, here we go. Convict leasing, which was a practice of leasing out convicts to private firms for profit. This practice, in some respects, was worse than slavery because while the slaveholder could expect to profit from a slave's future output for his entire working life and thus had an incentive to maintain the slave's health, the private firm had no such incentive, which led to mortality rates on many of these chain gangs being as high as 45% a year. Close to half. How many are dying disproportionately from COVID as they release that one judge who was convicted for selling out? I think he was making slaves of our youth. He was jailing the youth for money, cash for teen inmates, something like that. They just released his ass because the COVID is running rampant in the jails. White judge just worked them to death, Patricia Wright. Trump was evil, but Biden and Harris are worse. Biden and Harris are Armageddon. They're here to do what Crooked Hillary was trying to do. You wait for it. I can say more, but I'm trying to listen to my strategists. Not happy to be muzzled, but I get where he's coming from about some things I need to stay away from given what I'm seeking to build. Woo-wee. Fix it, Black Jesus. Lord have mercy. I cannot with this here. I am doing my best, family, to get through this without going off the rails. I went off the rails the other day. I prayed my voice back. God bless me with my voice. That's right, Robin Felix. Drain the goddamn hot damn swamp. Welcome to the live, my love. Over close to half of our descendants of chattel slavery who had their 40 acres and a mule taken from them. 1 million lost over the course of 8 years because of Homestead Act that 93 million white Americans and white immigrants benefit from to this day. Will they tell you no to your reparations in the trillions over multi-generations? And not a one elected official is full chest about your reparations. They want us to get permission for white folks and immigrants for the debt that is owed. And they're doing everything in their power. They're doing everything in their power to extinct us and to drown out the debt by replacing us with immigrants. When they open these borders to 22 million more, you're talking 92 million immigrants to ADOS, 35 million. Because convicts had no residual value, leasing them was very profitable. I'm fine, strategist. I am. Let me help you understand something. Include my strategist. This is the way I vent. My doctor told me that my blood and my organs are functioning like someone 20 years younger than my chronological age. Because I get to vent over here. Now, if I kept this inside, I'd be dead. So I know y'all think I'm gonna have a coronary. Trust me, this is healthy for me. I get to release it, take a couple days, they come back and talk about more puckery, and I feel better. So I know it's twisted, but even the nature of what I do is crazy. I handle 10 cases a day when I'm in court between 6 different judges and 6 different defense attorneys. And that would just lay other people out to keep up with all the issues and the merits of every case. Oh, bless you, Robin. Oh, I love you, Robin. Thank you so much for blessing the Friends of ADOS TV. Yeah, so there's the way Angela Nirvana works is very different. Oh, Robin Felix. Don't you make me cry. Don't you make me cry from that generous gift. I cannot right now. Oh, Lord of mercy. Bless you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. But yeah, so I'm not like your average ADOS who folds under pressure. I'm just grateful to God that I don't look like what I've been through. Why? Because I can come over here and vent with y'all. Okay? So anywho, let's get back to it. Robert Felix, that's going to buy me a month of stream, y'all. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. Because convicts, oh, yes. ADOS love. I love y'all black and strong. We're going to get through this. I thank y'all for hanging in there with me. If you have to go, you have to go. Pick it up later. But I'm doing this all the way through, no matter how long it takes. Prayerfully, within the next 15 minutes, I'll be done. Let me stop. God, y'all richly blessed me tonight. I thank you. Let's see here. Okay, the private firm had no such incentive. Okay, jumping. Because convicts had no residual value, leasing them was very profitable for both the private firms and the state, county, and local governments. Private prison industrial complex is a new name for convict leasing. Not only were convicts leased to farms of various sizes, but they were also leased to steel mills, lumber mills, coal mines, and other heavy industries. Many convicts, often malnourished and living in deplorable labor camps, had short life expectancies. To fill the demand for convicts, black men were often seized and charged with frivolous crimes, convicted and sent to chain gangs. Is that not going on today? Where's the lie? The practice of seizing black men was so widespread that by 1902, the seizure of black men on the back roads of the South was no longer even a brazen act. The practice became so detestable that black women who showed up to lumber camps in southern Alabama seeking the release of their loved ones were simply arrested when they arrived, chained into their cells, and kept to serve the physical desires of the men running the camps. The slave camps and mines produced scores of babies, nearly all of them white fathers. To accelerate the time to get a conviction, Southern officials developed the concept of plea bargaining, which circumvented the 13th Amendment requirement that one be duly convicted. Isn't that what they do today? Make them cop a plea? Governments placed the cost of trial on the accused, and captured blacks understood that fighting the system meant a longer sentence. Therefore, defendants were expected to plea bargain or confess judgment in order to lower the cost of the trial. The South's judicial system had been wholly reconfigured to make one of its primary purposes the coercion of African Americans to comply with the social customs and labor demands of whites. Is this not still going on today, family? In places like Chirac, still all over the South, everywhere. And if you try to flee, they just execute you. These actions created an abundant supply of convicts in state, county, and local jails, which made it easier for white farmers who would not have had enough capital to own a slave before emancipation to cheaply secure additional labor at a fraction of the cost. The practice was so widespread and profitable that in 1914, 20% of Alabama's state revenue was from convict leasing? Is that why they pour so many millions into the police? Is that why they're fighting mad that we want to defund the police? Just look at your city's budgets and see the large percentages of your tax dollars being used to fund the race soldiers that are arresting you and murdering us by government-sanctioned execution. And you were told to cop a plea for a lesser sentence, even if you're innocent. Therefore, the newly freed people who had no education, no representation in government, and no standing in society, and were given no land or capital to provide for their basic needs, had to return to the fields as laborers to earn wages. In exchange for his labor, a black sharecropper often received perpetual debt servitude and extremely limited means to accumulate any resources above his basic needs. If he broke the contract with the white landowner, he could be convicted of a crime, jailed and forced into labor via convict leasing under conditions that produced 45% death rates. If he did not enter into a contract and could not prove that he was otherwise gainfully employed, he can be convicted of being a vagrant or some other petty crime, jailed and returned to labor via convict leasing under conditions that produced 54% that produced 45% death rates. It was a ruthlessly efficient system that was the most effective way to return black laborers to the fields in a manner that allowed them to be, quote, free, close quote, in name only. As tragic and heartbreaking as that system was, its primary purpose and effect was to impose a 100% tax on black labor. By 1910, 93% of African Americans lived in the South, and the overwhelming majority of them were subject to a nearly 100% tax on their labor. And by 1935, 40% of the black labor force was still engaged in sharecropping, tenant farming, or worked as day laborers. In 1930, there were 1,205,000 black tenants and day laborers on Southern farms. They were paid an average income of $71 per year, which was $26 less than white tenants and day laborers. This difference in compensation cost black tenants and day laborers $31 million each year, or $157 million over 5 years, which is equivalent to $420 million per year, or $2.1 billion over a 5-year period in today's dollars. The period of sharecropping and tenant farming existed between 1870 and 1945, which was 1/3 of the length of state-sponsored chattel slavery in America. Therefore, if one were to assume that economic value of the resources extracted from Black Americans during this period is a third of the value extracted during the 250-year period of chattel slavery, it would amount to $15 trillion. In 1860, 4 million slaves were worth the equivalent of $22 trillion, which was wiped out by the Civil War. But over the next 75 years, Southern officials were still able to extract that 15 trillion of the 22 trillion they lost from the descendants of their former slaves, 3.6 million of whom were still working in ultra low-wage jobs in agriculture and domestic service in former slave states 65 years later. The devastation was so complete that in 1870, newly freed Black people owned less than 1% of U.S. land. And after 147 years, African Americans still own less than 1% of U.S. land. While this Jim Crow period may be hard to imagine, it is important to recall that during this period, number one, the equivalent of one Black American per week was publicly lynched, burned alive, hanged, and mutilated by their fellow white citizens, with no white person ever being convicted of any of these murders. Sounds like the race soldiers today. One Black American per week. Number two, the membership of white supremacist terrorist organization, the KKK, who they still won't label as domestic terrorists. We still don't have anti-lynch laws passed. Isn't that something Obama could have done by executive order? The KKK peaked at 4 million, which meant that up to 25% of the white population had a relative who was a member of this terrorist organization. Number three, entire Black towns were destroyed, and hundreds of Black Americans were killed by angry white mobs. As Kamala tells you, she ain't gonna do anything specifically for the ADOS people. As Jim Crow Sloppy Joe tells you that nothing will fundamentally change. Number four, Black soldiers returning from World War I were being lynched in their uniforms by private citizens. And number five, Black citizens had no political representation, almost no means to defend themselves, and were severely restricted in almost all labor, capital, service, and educational markets. This was such a violent period for Black Americans who could be killed for starting a business, accumulating wealth, and otherwise trying to improve their situation. But immigrants, some, not all, call us lazy. We're not trying hard enough. We're not pulling ourselves up by our bootless straps. Well, look at us. We've come to this country and we're lording over you with our education and the money from the set-asides and the affirmative action that was due to make you whole. What's wrong with you, ADOS? What's wrong with you? Why can't you do it? You're born and raised here. Why aren't you doing any better? Sounding just like our white oppressors you are, instead of kissing our baby toe, because we are your reparations. We are the reason why you're doing as well as you are, because they took everything from us. and continue to take everything from us. I don't understand why everybody ain't as pissed as me. Why y'all talk about how upset I am. Why aren't you upset? The Africans and the Caribbeans that come for me in my feed. Why aren't you hosting grassroots movement to get us the reparations we are due? That's the question. Not why am I so angry all the time. I'm going to read that last couple sentences and pray y'all out. This was such a violent period for Black Americans who could be killed for starting a business, accumulating wealth, and otherwise trying to improve their situation, that between 1910 and 1930, 1.6 million Black Americans fled southern states for northern U.S. cities, and by 1920, a massive Back to Africa movement had developed, supported by millions of African Americans. Black tax at 2015 price, Jim Crow alone is 15 trillion. I hope to see you Sunday, family. We're going to do Black tax in the labor market, anti-Black discrimination from 1935 to 1965, and the Black tax from the GI Bill, 1935 to 1965, and Black tax separate but equal education from 1896 to 1954. And that'll be it. I'm going to be reading from pages 59 to 66. Pick it up. The Black Tax, The Cost of Being Black in America by Shawn D. Rochester, who descends from Caribbean immigrants. But he did this book, y'all. He did this book here. Do you hear me? Woo-wee. I'm going to give this man some business, okay? I need him to help me make $1 out of 15 cents, all right? Well, with that said, family, I love y'all Black and strong. You know I do. I'm not screaming at you. I'm screaming with you. How's that? Patrice Lang, because they're profiting off our backs too, and nobody wants to trade places with the ADOS. And it's time to trade places after 500 plus years. We've only been doing slavery over here since the Spaniards, since the 14th century. Jay Bird, hi, my love. Welcome to the line. Hi, Angela. You always give it to a straight, no chaser. Oh, you are so passionate, not angry, sending positive vibes. Thank you, family. Angela, YVOC Info says, Angela, thanks for the correction on Jamal Bowman and his lineage. Would you happen to know the number of ADOS in Congress? Toya Woodland, I love you, Black and Strong family. What's up? Is that my girl from Black Lives Matter, Minnesota? Let me know in the chat. My love, I don't know how many ADOS are in Congress, but not nearly enough for speaking up about our reparations. It took the ADOS movement to get more signatures on a very empty HR 40. So I hear Yvette and them are going to come up with some new demands. They're trying to make edits, trying to get those pushed through. We're being ignored. Toya Woodland, Black Lives Matter in the building. Y'all show us some love. Listen here. They've got the same issues with their national federation, not trickling down the money to the chapters. It's a hardworking woman out of Minneapolis. Okay. She is a part of the reparations march that's coming to Washington on Inauguration Day and the day after. Now, my strategist tells me I need to stay out of it, but we're going to have to keep praying over that because the millennials want to do this march. And I know it's in the middle of a pandemic, but desperate times call for desperate measures. I will more than likely not be there because I've been told by my strategist, whom I hired, that I can't go. But if they can zoom me in via one of the jumbotrons, I'm happy to speak and be present at the event. So he'll speak to whomever that upsets. But I do believe, I understand why the millennials are insisting, because they're the ones that are going to have to eat the cost of slavery. And that's why I fight for the millennials, the woke boomers, the woke Gen Xers, the millennials, and the Gen Zs, which is my daughter. And I fight for your children too. And yeah, Toya, yes, she is organizing. Toya, could you please put in the chat where they can find you to help support? These are the chapters are for that reparations. Now, I've been on meetings with them, and they're absolutely for those reparations. You guys, please put it in the chat so you guys can help support. These chapters don't receive any of that $10 billion that the Federation is eating off of. That money is not trickling down to help the chapters do movement work, to help them with their marches, to help them with their campaigns. It's not helping the families who they wept. The chapters are the ones that are marching on behalf of the fallen. That money is not trickling down to help those families who have been executed by government and state sanction. It's not being used to help the leaders of these chapters, like Atoya. It's not helping them to get a defense when they turn up dead. Some of the leaders of some of these chapters are being executed and annihilated and hung and burned up in cars, and it's being told a suicide. None of that money is being used to help them in their going after whomever the guilty parties are, to investigate. None of that money is coming. So Toya Woodland Facebook. Okay, that's where you can find her if you want to get in and help them do some of this lifting, because that march is going on. I've tried to make a case for doing the march later, but they want the most impact. And the millennials have spoken and said that is on Inauguration Day and Day 2. Let the millennials have their way. Let them have their way and have their march, and support them the best way you can. Okay? There's another place, marchforreparations.com. Marchforreparations.com. If you don't intend to go, at least donate to marchforreparations.com. That's my comrade, Tara Perry, who is supposed to come on the show. She's a millennial. She's the brainchild. Toya is the brainchild from the Black Lives Matter. And then Tara is on ADOS, the ADOS side, and trying to join forces so we can do heavy lifting for each. Okay. Oh, Toya, you should not put your number. I hope that is an office phone that you're sharing in there. Black Lives Matter, Minnesota. So do know that the chapters are not the Federation, okay? Much respect to you, sister, for the work you're doing in the trenches, on the ground, and laboring hard to turn this Titanic around. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining the live. I appreciate you more than I have the words to convey. I want to thank each and every one of you that have donated to the show, who intend to contribute to the show. Listen, it takes a lot to put these shows together, and I'm grateful that you understand that, and I thank you, because it's going to be put to great use to reach the masses. It helps me to pay for my strategist. It helps me to pay for the StreamYard. I'm coming up with a merch line, a website, all kinds of things. It helps me to coalesce the grassroots so we can do the heavy lifting together and get some real legislation and be able to pay off some of these Congress people to be about the reparations. So yeah, it goes a long way, family. Know that there is no gift too small or too large, of course, but please, aggregated dollars help me to get this work done to benefit the incredible, the beautiful, the brilliant American descendants of chattel slavery. I'm proud to be amongst you. And it's my privilege to be your voice 2 to 3 times a week in this space. With that said, family, let me pray the prayer of protection over you for my peace of mind, that the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever ADOS and its allies are, God truly is, because, family, you are the face of God. You are the voice of God. You are the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. Until Sunday, family, I think that show is at 4:00. You'll see it advertised. I want you to make it a beautiful, God-inspired rest of your Friday night and weekend. And you go out in these streets and show the world the truth of who you are. I just told you. So I know you didn't forget that fast. Know this. If nobody has told you they love you, Angela Nirvana, Friends of ADOS TV, loves you black and loves you super strong. Mwah. Good night, family. Peace. Until Sunday. Be well. Stay safe.